This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. Delighted for the first time, I think, interviewing Ade Oladipo. How are we, mate?
Yeah, crazy that is, because you've been out and about doing your bits. So, look, firstly, well done on your success as well, especially in the last sort of 6 months. You've obviously grown a lot. And this ain't easy, is it? Like, what you do ain't easy. I think people at home sometimes think it's easy, just get a camera and a mic and start talking. But it's not easy, especially big events like this, where there's hundreds of cameras. So well done on what you're doing as well.
100%, man. I appreciate it from you, man. A man I take a lot of inspiration from. So, you know, I was going to say, just before we start this, fresh from the weight cut, how are you feeling? Rehydrated now after that?
Fresh from the weight cut, 175 pounds. Crazy. Honestly, such a crazy experience, but we got it done. I needed to get it done. We've been to New York, we've put the weight back on. Not all of it, but we put the weight back on. But it's a good experience. And it makes me now understand what fighters do. The rehydration. Now it makes me even understand how bad it is when you put rehydration caps on fighters. I'm like, well, that's crazy now. I get it. So I needed to do it. I talk about the sport a lot. I'm not going to get in the ring and fight, so I thought this is probably the second best thing I could do. So we did it, and we're never doing it again.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get onto it. We'll get onto the reason we're actually here. Tyson Fury takes on Francis Ngannou. Battle of the baddest. You've got the lineal heavyweight champion. It's boxing champion, the lineal UFC champion. A lot of criticism and a lot of things have been said about the fight as a contest, but on the magnitude of the event, how big do you think it is? It's
massive. It's massive. But look, I can understand why there has been, some people that have given it the thumbs down, and you have to get that. They should expect that as well. This is the two best in their respective sports, but in their respective sports, they've still got good contest. Francis Ngannou could be fighting John Jones, will make that fight eventually. Tyson Fury could certainly be fighting Alexander Usyk or the winner of Zhang Joyce. So there are still fights to be made, but the magnitude of the fight is, look, I mean, you only have to look at the media that's here. It's going to do well over 1 million pay-per-view buys as well. It's huge, it's enormous. Two massive men. Ngannou, 6'5", 6'6", Fury, 6'8", 6'9". I mean, it really, and I love the title, sort of the baddest man. I love it as well, because boxing's always had that title, hasn't it? You're the baddest man on the planet. But for years, everyone's been like, oh, 1 second, MMA guys could do their thing as well. So, look, it deserves to get some stick, but ultimately, we just want to see people fight. And this will be a decent fight for a couple of rounds.
Focusing on a Ngannou point of view, the way we look at it for him, obviously we knew his UFC contract situation was up in the air. We didn't know what was going on with him and Dana White. How much is it a credit to him where he's chosen his own path, gone against Dana White, which we know that's a hard person to sever ties with, and become his own boss in a way and use the leverage that not many people have against the UFC?
It's incredible. It's incredible. No one does it. No one does it. Look at all the fighters that seem to be locked into these crazy contracts. For Ngannou, whose backstory is incredible, right? I mean, coming from Cameroon to France, homeless, to the UFC, well, he made decent money, but for him to think, 1 second, I can do more, and take the risk, and it is a risk, right? This was never promised or planned, but for him to kind of bet on himself and say, 1 second, I want to get out of it, I can do more, and for his first fight to be Tyson Fury, not a Chisora or a White or a Bakolu, names that were being rumoured, for him to fight the number one in the division, that's incredible. And hopefully a lot of these UFC guys, look, not everyone's going to get a Tyson Fury type fight, but hopefully a lot of these UFC guys can maybe kind of take that risk. There's a lot of talk about the Saudis getting involved with PFL, so hopefully a lot of money there for them. But you've got to roll the dice, and he's rolled the dice and his numbers have come up.
I was going to say, do you think many MMA fighters could potentially follow suit? We see that there's a route of misfits. You see Mike Perry's involved, things like that. But on a massive level like this, do you see that there's a route for UFC fighters to potentially opt out and use the leverage, actually finally gain leverage against the UFC, which is so hard to do?
Not for all of them. Obviously, for the big ones, there are some big stars in the UFC. I mean, you look at John Jones, he could use his own leverage. We've seen fighters do it in the past. Obviously, Conor was the biggest one. Nate Diaz recently with Jake Paul. Nate Diaz probably made more in that Jake Paul fight than any fight in the UFC. I know he fought Conor, but he would probably made more in the the Jake Paul fight. So you've got to be a star to do it. But I do think what we're going to see now is a lot of UFC fighters maybe not sign these 5 and 6 fight deals because of the money that's out there in BKFC and PFL and potentially boxing fights. And I feel like Francis kind of putting his foot down. And hopefully he's opened the eyes and doors for a lot of these UFC fighters to not get robbed, because some of the money they're getting is a joke. Like when you see things like 10 and 10, like 10,000 to show and 10,000 if you win, 20,000 for an MMA fighter whose camp probably costs 10. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. So hopefully there's a few MMA guys on this. There's not been that much talk about the undercard yet. Hopefully there's a few MMA guys on this, so we'll see.
So we'll go into this fight as a contest. Not many people are giving Francis Ngannou much of a chance? As you said there in a previous interview with Boxing King Media, you said that Ngannou isn't really a good MMA boxer. Do you sort of, more on that sort of stuff? You don't really give Ngannou much of a chance against Tyson Fury?
No chance. It's not disrespectful to Ngannou. It's almost disrespectful to Fury for me to give Ngannou a chance. This is Fury, who's been boxing since he was 6, the lineal, unbeaten heavyweight champion, against a guy that's never had a boxing match in his life. No chance. Fury should be able to run rings around him. Honestly, no way. If Ngannou was even fighting at Chisora, I'd say Chisora should beat him. So there's no way he should have a chance. But he's a big guy. That's funny. I spoke to Chisora the other day about this, and he thinks that Ngannou's going to at least knock him down. He's ungainly. His punches come from everywhere. So if you're Fury, how do you prepare for that? But Fury will figure him out. Fury's so good. That's why I get annoyed with him, because he's so good. I feel like he could beat every heavyweight quite comfortably. And but look, we'll see what he does. We'll see what Ngannou can do. But no chance.
Do you think Ngannou hits harder than Wilder?
No. I get what Mike Tyson was trying to say, because you probably see him hit the pads. But there's a difference hitting the pads and actually in a fight, your stance and everything. And his stance is still a bit off. Nah, no chance. But he's a big, big guy. And everyone he's fought in the UFC, I think minus a couple, he's knocked out, put to sleep. But Wilder does that as well. So no, Wilder hits harder, 100%.
Ade, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure. It's good to be catching up with you for the first time, mate. I appreciate it, mate. Top man. Thank you, bro. Top man. No, let's do it again. Top man. Thank you, bro. Thank you.